The state of New Jersey is toughening gun laws, according to officials taking steps to protect children and families. Today, Governor Phil Murphy signed 6 new laws. One will allow police to keep firearms out of the hands of mental health and therapy patients. Another will take guns away from people who pose a risk of injury to themselves or to others. A third requires background checks for people who buy guns from private dealers. State officials say more than 2,000 shootings happen in New Jersey every year. One of the nation's most influential medical groups is now calling our gun violence problem a public health crisis. The American Medical Association, the AMA, wants Congress to do something, actually several things, to curb gun-related deaths and injuries. Today, AMA delegates adopted new proposals, including these. I'll read them to you. Laws to protect, or rather to allow family members or police to ask a court to take a gun away if there is a threat of imminent violence. Take guns away from people under a domestic violence restraining order. Expand domestic violence restraining orders to include dating partners. Advocate for schools to remain gun-free zones and oppose requirement or incentives for teachers to carry weapons. Dr. Megan Ranney is Director of Emergency Digital Health Innovation and Special Projects at Brown University, joining me from Providence, Rhode Island. You know, it's really interesting and powerful to hear from the AMA. This is a powerful voice.
It is, and really their speaking out represents the degree to which we as doctors recognize that gun violence is a public health epidemic. Like you mentioned, more than 38,000 Americans died from gun violence in 2016 alone. 200 are injured every day, and we as doctors are the ones that take care of the victims, right? The victims of a domestic violence shooting or a drive-by or a suicide. We're also the ones who have to tell family members that they've lost a loved one. And we're the ones who take care of patients in the aftermath, those who survive. We've stood by while the numbers of gun violence deaths and injuries continue to increase, and no one's done much of anything. And we as doctors have finally said enough, right? We know how to fix this epidemic. We can fix it the same way we fixed and cured so many others. You know, one example is car crashes. We've decreased the number of deaths from car crashes by more than 50%. Well, there are meanwhile more cars on the road and more people driving. We've done that through a combination of policy, sure, things like drunk driving laws, but also through really good science.
But so I hear you on that, and I think it's an interesting parallel to make, but there's a bit of a difference, right, between we are, of course, attached to our cars, and we need them. They get us from here to there. We rely on them. But there is an obsession, and I'd argue even a love affair with guns in this nation. And there are people that feel it's a fundamental right for them to be able to have them. Is legislating this going to be enough? Do we not have to sort of work on the psyche of some, not all, but some gun owners?
Absolutely, so that's a great question, and I'll point out there that 40% of doctors are gun owners, including members of the AMA. So certainly legislation will not be enough. Just as with any other public health epidemic, laws alone will never fix it. We need good science and education and certainly culture change as well.
Well, look, I think it's powerful that a voice as loud and as strong with so many members, the American Medical Association, the fact that you're adding your voice to this conversation, because you are, again, physicians are the ones that are putting these bodies back together, repairing these bodies, having to alert families if their loved ones are going to make it. Megan Ranney, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Again, Brown Emergency Digital Health Innovation and Special Projects from Providence, Rhode Island.